right, Chief Davis, we're going to start with the hard questions.
Okay.
Well, I know you testified this week against HB 470, and that would extend the DPS enforcement area downtown and have the city of Austin pay for it. Now, you spoke about how safe the city actually is. Tell us a little bit more about how safe is Austin.
Well, I just don't want there to be, when you talk about the politics of all of this, and I just don't want there to be this misconception that Austin is a dangerous city. And when you start comparing Austin to other cities, certainly within Texas even, or throughout the country with the same similar size, Austin is not a violent city. And so I just take exception to that.
Do you have any statistics or information on the numbers?
Absolutely. So we are down in that downtown area where we're working over 15% year to date. And then overall, city-wide, we're down almost 9% in violent crime, and we're down 30% in our homicides.
Well, you also said during the testimony that your department has been traumatized. What's been so traumatic for you?
Yeah, I think when you look at from 2020 and you look at the changes and you look at all the things that occurred here, I think that's it. You talk about just what occurred in 2020, the arrest of the officers, the city council, those things that happen here. And I think all of that culminates into a department that is feeling that they need some leadership and they need to turn the ship. And I think that's what it comes down to.
And you've been here for 6 months. How are you trying to turn the ship, so to speak?
Yeah, I think it's kind of looking at where we need to make changes. It is certainly the relationship with the DA, which I think is going great. I mean, we meet monthly. We talk at least once a week when we talk about cases and we talk about things that we're seeing. He knows my opinion. I know his. So I think that's making a huge difference when you're building that trust and there's some accountability there. That's one way, but it's also about the way we work. And so when we're looking at the org chart and we're looking at the way we do business, what is going to make it better for the officers and the community? And I think there are things that we can change here to do that. Such as when you look at the patrol shifts, that's one thing, and these are issues that are going to be coming up. We had the Barry Dunn report that was brought by the city management team, I believe, before I got here. And so the results of that are talking about how can we get more officers on patrol? And that is one thing. We are kind of upside down when it comes to the number of officers that are on patrol versus are in those more investigative assignments. So how do we do that? How do we turn that around? And so for my purposes, it's looking at, can we decentralize some units? Can we put some people back into the sectors and make it a point where they're still doing investigative work, but it's more specific to those sectors? And I think we can do that and bring people back to those sectors, get beats back, or districts. We used to have districts here. And I think having that ownership of what it truly means to be part of a neighborhood. And when an officer has their own district and they're responsible for that, it means something to them. And so when it's about other officers coming in to take those runs, other officers coming in that don't belong in those districts, you get a feeling about that. It's let me take care of my district, my homeowners, my business owners that are here. And I think that when you can get to that, that's a nice point.
So it's a matter of community policing.
That's right.
In a way.
Yes, and so community policing is, you could talk about community policing all day long, and I've said this before. You can have all the coffee with the cop you want, but unless you're really in there solving problems together, you're not doing community policing. And the DRs and the work that they do, those district representatives, they work so hard. And I think a lot of officers don't even understand the amount of work that goes into putting these communities first and going into the community and doing this work. That's what community policing is. It's every day. It's knowing who these business owners are. It's knowing who lives in the neighborhood that you serve. That's community policing.
Let's talk a little bit about staffing. I know you said that you have more patrol officers than you have, say, investigators.
Right. Less. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about staffing. Has staffing at APD improved? Is it getting better?
It is getting better. We are still about 340 officers short. And so when you look at what does that mean? So we're recruiting. We're going to have 3 classes a year. That's the goal. With at least, my goal is at least 70 to 80 people per class. And so the goal is by the end of 2027, the beginning of 2028, we'll be down maybe 40 officers. And so at that point, if we can get there, which I think we will, will be stabilized. And all of those people that are coming out will be going to patrol. And so when we start bulking up patrol, you're going to see those response times go down and that community engagement going up.
Now let's talk a little bit about the Austin Police Reserve Officers Unit. That's been up and running for a little while.
Right.
How is that going?
Yeah, I think, I'm really impressed with that unit. I think that's something I haven't seen. And certainly we need to use it. I think there might be some ordinances in place of what they can and can't do. So I'd really like to visit that and see, is there something more we can do with these reserve officers? So you talk about auto accidents, or you talk about things that's taking time for us to get there. Again, it is very rare for people to call the police. And I think it's people need to understand that it's very rare. People, for the most part, never call the police in their entire lives. And so when you have an accident, you expect the police to come. And so if we can do a better job of getting people out there that can respond to those calls, I think, one, that's better customer service, and it's better for the people that are suffering, the consequences of these accidents.
And any idea how many reserve officers you guys have?
I believe there's 54.
Okay.
And so currently they're used for festivals, traffic positions during like ACL or South by Southwest, and I think they have to work a minimum of 10 hours a month. So I think if we can revisit what that looks like, to truly get them to when we talk about alternate responses, just have people that have been police officers who have done this work to do that, I think we would do ourselves a huge favor.
And that's something else I really wanted to dig a little bit into, response times and prioritizing what calls police officers actually go to, how quickly they get there.
Right.
Because I know a lot of people call our newsroom, email us saying, we had an incident, we called police. They came a few hours later. Sometimes they don't show up at all.
Right.
So
yeah.
that's definitely something that people are.
It is, and it's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. And so when you look at the calls for service, you have priority 0 and priority 1. Those are your more dangerous calls. Person with a gun, person has been shot, those more serious calls. But the other 2s and 3s, they need to be dispatched. And I think there was a time where we were not dispatching those. They were basically, the officers could see them and could grab them when they had time. So that has changed. It's gotten to a point where we are dispatching those now. And it will fall to a certain officer to make sure that they respond to that call, because, again, it's unacceptable. And we've also changed the 311. It used to be that 311 you could call and they would route you to an online reporting system, but if you refused that online reporting system, it put you in a call. So you would just receive a call back. And sometimes that wasn't until days later. And so, again, unacceptable. We've changed that where a 311 will now, if you do not want to make that online report, they'll walk you through it and they'll make the report for you. And so that's cutting out that delay in time for the detectives to get back to people.
We have about 1 minute. 1 minute, all right. Well, after former officer Christopher Taylor was sentenced to prison on a deadly conduct charge, you said APD would continue to respond to community calls for police service, especially the people having mental health crises. You said you would develop a holistic response to people involved in mental health issues. What have you done to do that?
Yeah, so there's more coming out with this. We're working closely with EMS to develop a co-response with EMS and Integral Care. And so where the 3 of us are responding on those higher priority calls when it comes with someone with a knife or a gun. EMS, we are very fortunate here that they respond to a lot of our mental health calls. And so truly having partnerships with that within public safety, that matters. And so I think this co-response with them, we're going to see some big wins.
Good deal. Is that happening now?
That is happening. We're going to be piloting that in the next couple of weeks, so there'll be more to come on that. You're the first one to hear about that. So again, this comes again as a public safety response.